Okay, the stream is starting now, Lawrence. The stream is live. Lauren, I believe we're live.
Hello, everyone.
It's a new week. Welcome.
Welcome to your door.
It's a new week. It's a new Final Fantasy discussion.
It's a brand new day.
And we're here to talk about many things. Stream is live. But primarily, we're going to be talking about the Final Fantasy VII Remake.
Everyone.
And it's a potential sequel to the Final Fantasy VII Remake. Which, at this point, seems a bit crazy. But that's where we're at. Discussion.
Yeah.
So, how is everyone this week?
We're here to talk about
what have you been up to?
things.
We've had a,
primarily,
I'd say, a pretty chilled out week.
Yeah.
The Final chilled out week.
Pretty chill. Yeah.
Hasn't been too much on the
It's a
Final
sequel to
Fantasy
the Final
news
Fantasy
front.
Remake.
No, I
Which,
mean,
At this
we've
point,
just
seems a
been-
bit crazy.
just been
but
mellow.
That's
Yeah,
where we're at.
mellow week.
Well, Trista
how
Fair,
is
that
everyone this
really
week?
depends on whether you
Um,
believe that
what
Sunday
have you
is
been
the
up to?
first day of the week.
Girls
had a
would have
primarily
arguments
pretty-
with you about
pretty
it
chilled out
because
week.
our calendars over here
chilled out
start
week.
on Sunday, don't they?
Hasn't been too much
Or
on
whatever
the
it
Final
is.
Fantasy
Something
news
like
front.
that.
No.
Or is it the other way around? Is it
Yeah,
that?
they start on Monday.
Oh, they do start on Monday here. They start on Monday here.
Yeah.
So you're completely wrong.
No, but they said
Well,
that Sunday is the
Trista
first
Fair,
day.
that
You're just
Depends on
confusing
whether you
me.
believe that Audio is
Sunday
reverbing.
is
Oh,
Girls
right.
would have arguments with you about it because our calendars.
That's the one I want.
So you can't even. They couldn't even hear us.
They could. They were just hearing us twice.
Ah, that's a problem.
I've got to remember to change the settings.
Yeah. Sorry.
Whoa, Stephen Lewis, how did you feel about the game? How did you feel about Final Fantasy VII? That's crazy that you literally just finished it. But yeah, so the context of today's live stream, now that the audio is fixed, is that Hajime Tabata was having an interview with Game Revolution, and they asked some pretty ballsy questions.
They were pretty intense. Actually.
I can't do anything but commend the guy who asked the interviews.
I know. They have some balls, man. Well, no, sorry, that's offensive. They just have some bravery.
Yes,
That's what
they
I
are
want.
very courageous. So basically, obviously, everyone knows the story about what happened with Final Fantasy 15 and Versus 13, where Hajime Tabata was brought on board and replaced Nomura as the director. They was like, so Tabata, how do you feel if you replaced Nomura as director on the Final Fantasy 7 remake?
It's just like, really? Really?
So he basically said that he would not want to be the director on the Final Fantasy VII remake. He has no idea how Nomura is going to be able to do that, like meet everyone's expectations around it, because it's such an unenviable task, basically. And he, being the good team player he is, has basically said, I don't think there's anyone that can do it other than Kitase and Nomura. Very diplomatic.
Yeah, he was a good boy.
Yes. However, they then probed him further and said, well, what about Final Fantasy VII Part 2? Now, there are some people in the comments saying that, yes, we have already had a sequel to Final Fantasy VII. Technically, it's Advent Children and then
Yeah.
Dirge of Cerberus. But you also have to remember that they have said that the Final Fantasy VII Remake essentially makes... they're starting the universe from scratch. So, Advent Children, Crisis Core Before Crisis, and Dirge of Cerberus essentially don't exist in... Well, they may not exist at all. They may get rid of that story completely. They could integrate it in ways that make those games redundant, which is probably what I'm sure is going to happen. And if they do that, then that means that technically it opens the door for a straight Final Fantasy VII Part 2 sequel, which would then come after all the parts of the remake are delivered. And Tabata has said, sure, I would love to direct a Final Fantasy VII Part 2. Which I thought was quite interesting, because it was quite revealing in the sense that they, I mean, because of the wider compilation, Nomura's already said that stuff's just kind of being filtered out. But Tabata's just kind of confirmed there that he's okay making a sequel.
Yeah, which is weird. Like, really? Like, I don't know if... Like, going from not wanting to work on Final Fantasy at all to being like, oh yeah, I'd work on a sequel to Final Fantasy VII and not work on Type 1. it just seems like a weird statement from him.
Really?
To me, it does. Why would you want to work on, or like after all he's done with Final Fantasy 15, why would you want to work on a sequel to a game that is like well solidified within the community that will be heavily scrutinized by its fans?
Well, don't forget that he also was a major component of expanding the Final Fantasy VII universe.
He was, but at the same time, I wouldn't want that weight on my shoulders.
Well, I mean,
but there again, it's all theoretic. He's all theoretics.
I mean, like, he was happy to take that weight on with Final Fantasy 15.
Yeah.
I think he's just kind of dumb with that game to a degree. Well, he's decided to go back to it, so he's not finishing it yet. But
the installment, Kelsey, the installments were canon. They're just not canon with the Final Fantasy VII Remake, as said by Nomura. Which is why they will never re-release the games in like an HD collection. Like they've asked Nomura straight out, like, why won't you do any HD collections? And he's like, because the original narrative would not fit in with what we were trying to do with the Final Fantasy VII Remake. It would just confuse everything. So, yeah.
Lost Cause. What if they add chapters Advent and Cerberus as part of it, so they could just move past it? I still have a feeling that they are going to try and integrate parts of those games and the movie into the Final Fantasy VII Remake. I don't quite know how they're going to do it with the sequels.
Yeah.
I think with Before Crisis and Crisis Core, they can do it much more easily. Even if they're not going to have Before Crisis characters in the game, they can still reference them.
Yeah.
Likewise with Crisis Core, characters like Cisne, and they're going to probably have Zack in there in a more prominent place. Like Hollander can be referenced. They can integrate parts of Dirge of Cerberus in terms of the past narrative. So they can talk about Grimoire, Lucrezia more. They could talk about Hojo's past a lot more. But it's going to be interesting to see how far the Final Fantasy VII Remake goes in terms of what story they integrate.
What they're going to offer.
They could start sowing the seeds, for example, with regards to the Dirge of Cerberus story. So that kind of stuff. Most of what happened in Dirge of Cerberus was happening during the timeline of Final Fantasy VII. We just didn't know about it. It was essentially in Sector 0. The experiments were already taking place. The characters in Dirge of Cerberus were around because they were in Crisis Core. So they could integrate them in some way. Advent Children is the only one that's a bit more grey in terms of like, so because like Kadaj, Loz, and the other guy, what's the other guy's name, Yazoo, they can't exist until Sephiroth has been defeated.
I kind of treat Advent Children as just pure fan material, like pure filler. Like it just doesn't. The whole film to me just feels like a fan fest where it's just like, let's include everything. That's
what it is. I mean, it was originally supposed to be a 20-minute movie.
Let's include everything that the fans want and just give it to him, including we'll bring back Sephiroth. And so like I just don't, in my mind, I just can't count it as canon because nothing really happens.
Yeah.
Like things happen, but it doesn't really affect that much.
The ultimate Final Fantasy VII Genesis fan. Very apt.
But no, I do really like the stuff in I've been watching some of the stuff in Dirge of Cerberus. I wasn't able to play it when it was originally out, but like watching through some of the scenes, especially between Lucrezia and Vincent, his flashbacks are really actually interesting and intense. I mean, I have no clue how she let Hojo just the intimacy between her and Hojo still just like, I mean, I don't want to watch that. But anyways, I think like there's a really interesting backstory there, and I mean the fact that she's the mother of Sephiroth as well. It's really interesting.
Welcome Ryan.
Hi Ryan.
Tillett. I think someone already answered your question, but essentially, don't think about the Final Fantasy VII Remake as there are parts, but they're not sequels. So they will be. It's a weird situation, but essentially the main game is being split into multiple parts. So technically they will be sequels to each other, but in terms of the wider Final Fantasy VII narrative, they won't be. But then this begs the question of how far they're going to go with the story. I mean, like, we've all been thinking about Final Fantasy VII Remake in the context of they're going to make it so that it starts when the original Final Fantasy VII started and it ends when the original Final Fantasy VII ends. That may not be the case. Maybe they're going to change the boundaries. Maybe they're going to have a completely different story.
Maybe they're going to make like an episode Vincent, episode Yuffie. Like, we don't even know what they're going to do with that type of thing as well, because like they're going to have to make. I mean, I just don't see another option other than to make Vincent and Yuffie.
They have to be permanent characters.
Permanent characters. They can't make them optional anymore.
I mean, they may choose to, but I think.
Unless if they go,
they're going to come into difficulties.
Well, they could go the sort of like Heavy Rain type route, because like that's the thing with like games like Life is Strange and stuff. I mean, granted, I don't know how much more complicated those games are, but they do have a lot of choice-based things that help you to that they bring characters in and out if they're meant to be in there or not.
Well, I think it will be easier because the problems they had before was a lot of the it was the pre-rendered cutscenes, so they couldn't include them in the pre-rendered cutscenes.
But they don't really do pre-rendered cutscenes anymore.
So it'll be much easier to take characters in and out and record slight like changes in dialogue and stuff to make it so they flow. How do we think they're going to integrate those other properties in? I
honestly don't know.
I don't know. I think
it's going to be too intense otherwise.
We've seen in the previous 2 games, like 13 and 15, that there has been a bigger onus on wider lore, background researching by the player themselves. There's a lot of kind of you need to do things yourself. That it's not spoon-fed as much as it was in the previous ones. Now, I know a lot of what we know has been kind of divulged in the sequels and other properties, and there was like a decent amount of stuff revealed in the Ultimania guidebooks, which of course we've never had. But I feel like that will be something. Like, there will be lots of information. Like, maybe they'll have like a Shinra archive or something like that, where you can find out more about the original Avalanche and how it wasn't necessarily the way it was in Final Fantasy VII. You could learn more about like the origins of Barrett and what happened with Dyne in the past. You could learn about kind of like these like famous soldiers like Genesis and Angeal. That could be one way they get around it. Likewise, when you're talking about flashback scenes, you can do whatever the hell you want. Like, as long as it works for developing a character, then by all means, because so in the original Final Fantasy VII, Angeal wasn't present, but as we saw in Crisis Core, Angeal knew Cloud. As far as I'm aware, they do interact with each other at some point. I think Genesis also meets Cloud at some point. Well, I mean, Genesis is in the reactor, so like Genesis is probably going to have to be integrated on that basis alone.
But and Celtic or Celtic brings they did have pre-rendered cutscenes in Final Fantasy 15, but very few basically, and not a lot of people have really delved into this, I don't think, yet, but like Square Enix have actually made an executive decision years ago that they weren't going to do the spiffy FMVs as much anymore. You can kind of see that they started dwindling them come like Final Fantasy 12, I guess it was, because it cost too much. So if you notice in the later games, there aren't really that many FMVs anymore, not nearly as much as there were. So that was actually an executive decision by Square Enix. And there's only like 2 or 3 in Final Fantasy 15.
And most of those were kind of just cast-offs from Kingsglaive.
Yeah. Well, like the ending and some of the other...
Well, the earlier ones were...
important scenes.
Because they had like the trailer, the Omen trailer was in there. They had the Kingsglaive montage.
Yeah.
They had the earlier like, Noctis is leaving.
But pretty much everything else was real time.
Yeah. I mean, I do think it's slightly preemptive of Tabata to be talking about a sequel, considering we don't even know when the first part is coming out.
I know, it's
and we
hilarious.
have no idea how many parts there are going to be. when the last part's going to come out. There could be 3 parts, there could be 4, there could end up 5. We have no idea.
Honestly, I have no clue how they're going to incorporate everything into it.
I genuinely hope Brixus Jaeger that they do release the parts 1 year after another.
Yeah.
And I mean, Roberto Ferrari has already said that they're working on part 2 at the moment. Like he's already working on the concept art for the characters related to part 2. So we don't know how far along they are. We don't know how far along they are with part 1.
Yeah.
But I mean, it would make sense that they're kind of doing it. Like if you think about how Peter Jackson did the Lord of the Rings films, they were all roughly done at the same time. Now they obviously released them periodically because they couldn't just put them on top of each other. But and they had more time to kind of work on the editing of certain things and reshoots or whatever. But from what you probably know better than I would, but they were released roughly around they were recorded roughly around the same time, right?
Which one? Sorry.
Lord of the Rings. All the Lord of the Rings
films.
films.
Oh, the Lord of the Rings films. Yeah, they were recorded around the same time. Yeah.
So I think that there is a good chance that they're gonna kind of release them quite quickly once they do start coming out. It's just kind of what position they put themselves in, because the longer they go, the more likely there is that we're going to be in a new console generation. I would say that they've kind of been dealt a nice hand by the fact that they've just released the PlayStation Pro and the Xbox One X is going to be coming out soon, which means that the generation is obviously going to be prolonged slightly.
Yeah.
It wouldn't surprise me if we see like a PS4 Pro Lite or a PS4 Pro Slim appearing at some point to just extend it a little bit more.
And Puddle Jumper, like I don't know, like I feel like the main game is going to be 3 parts, but I feel like there will be splinters off of it, and maybe it will be DLC content, the dreaded DLC, but like that would make a bit more sense, like maybe just spin-off titles all splintering off of the parts. So if you want the more in-depth Crisis Core storyline, you like more about the Turks, you can go in this one. If you want more about the Vincent timeline, you can go into this one. And that
sorry, I was just laughing about the new Empire ads.
I know. I'm sorry, guys. I wish that I could just say let's get rid of them, but the Final Fantasy 15 freaking new Empire ads are just very mean.
Ryan, I don't know. I think it really comes down to what they do with the DLC. Like there's probably going to be DLC with the Final Fantasy Remake. It's just how they do it. So yeah, if it's something that doesn't relate to the core story, it's something that is clearly an aside. So let's say the Turks they're obviously going to be part of the story, but they're not going to be a massive part of the story, let's say.
Yeah.
If it's a spin-off, essentially a spin-off title where you get to play as the Turks doing their own missions, and there's no kind of, I guess, you're going to learn something more about the wider lore by playing it, but it's not going to be something that impacts the wider story, let's say.
Yeah, no, I agree with that.
Like it's just
like,
you get a new experience, and I'd probably be okay with that.
To be honest, I would want some more explanation. Like I really like the designs of the Sviets in Dirge of Cerberus. Like I really kind of hope that there's a presence of them in the and I mean like they've done enough to include one of them in World of Final Fantasy, so they haven't obviously forgotten about them. They're not leaving them out. So I wonder if they will sort of explore them again. But that was one of the things that I feel I kind of missed out. And like they reminded me so much of the Metal Gear Solid guys from Metal Gear Solid 3. Like I was just kind of like, wow, these are actually really cool.
Sorry. I was saying Stephen Lewis's comment where you could have DLC where it puts the original character skins in the game. That would be ridiculous.
Jeez, we get a lot of we're getting a lot of interesting comments tonight.
Well, this is probably the most
the most times I've had to hit the block button.
Yeah. I'm sorry, Via Pal, but it's a conversation that has already started.
And also blame Square Enix because they've given us zero stuff to talk about. Like,
yeah, I feel like they're gonna have to do DLC with Final Fantasy VII. They kind of just
Yeah.
they put themselves down that path. But I would much rather they went down the kind of Lightning Returns route, where it's just kind of new costumes, slightly different equipment. It could just be, I don't know, if they want to put it in so that you can pay to like level up your materia fast. Like I don't really care about that kind of stuff. It doesn't change the experience to me. It just it's like, I don't necessarily understand about the people that complain that with the Steam versions they put in the like the kind of cheats. Like that doesn't bother me. Like,
No, because you can just not use them.
Exactly.
Oh, bye, Cyborg.
Bye.
But yeah, I mean, like, my sort of concern is, one, how long will it take for them to do part one, and then two, how much content are they going to be able to fit in within the time frame that they've set for part one. And I just don't want them to inundate us with too much information and make it seem cluttered and rushed. Like, that's my big concern.
I mean, I can understand why people would have the opinion that the Final Fantasy VII Remake is being split into parts to milk it, but I don't know. I guess I'm more. What's the word? I don't want to say optimistic, but philosophical. I don't know. Like, I genuinely don't feel that is the reason why they're doing it. Like, sure, they're going to be able to make more money out of the product as a total, but I feel it's not as the decision they took lightly, and I feel like it's been taken because there is so much material. And I think the problem is that if you're looking at Final Fantasy VII's the original game, it's not actually that long. Like, it's a 20-30 hour game if you just do the main story, and then obviously if you do all the rest of the stuff, it adds a lot more time onto it.
Yeah.
But I feel like they're basically treating, and I've used this analogy before, but like, think about the Mass Effect franchise. Yes, they could have released one game for the Mass Effect original franchise. Mass Effect 1, 2, and 3 could have been one game. They could have condensed the story down. They could have just shoved it all in one game. But they had a plan. They wanted to tell the story. They had books that fleshed out the story in other ways. Like, they had a whole universe and a rough plan that they had. Sure, they didn't have part 3 completely fleshed out when they started part 1, I'm sure. But they had a plan of doing a trilogy, assuming everything went right, the game sold, everything like that. I don't see this as any different. The difference is, though, that we already know the beginning and the end of the story from our perspective. Now, they may change it, as I said, but I don't necessarily have a problem with them doing it in parts, because they've made that decision. They have to convince me that it was a good decision by making each part a damn good game. And the easiest comparison is the Lord of the Rings. Now, I know that the Lord of the Rings was a 3-part book series, but actually I was reading that originally, when Peter Jackson told the execs that he wanted to do a 3-part, they actually didn't agree, and they wanted to condense it down into 2 movies. Do you remember? Did you read that?
No.
But then, or maybe it was even they wanted to condense it down to 1. I think they wanted him to condense it down to 1 movie.
Yeah, they wanted him to do it into 1. Yeah, that was it.
And he disagreed, and he tried to fight. He went for additional funding, and that's when he got Legendary and I think New Line. Yeah. And they said, no, you're right. It needs to be 3. It needs to be 3. Three stories.
And then they were just like, oh, let's make money out of The Hobbit by making it into 3.
Again, was that his decision though?
I don't know.
But either
somebody's just bad decision.
But either way, like, from what I gather, the 3 Hobbit films, like, people don't like them as much as the Lord of the Rings films, but they don't hate them. Like, they pulled in...
I'm not watching them again.
Well...
I'm not wasting my time.
But they pulled in parts of the wider lore, and they did it in a way that wasn't terrible.
Yeah.
Like, they could have done it in 1 movie, but they decided to do it in 3. But as I said, the onus is on them to convince me that splitting it up into parts is a good idea. The only way they're going to do that is if each individual game is a really good game.
Yeah.
No, and if that's the case, and they make individual part as a really good game, then I'm not going to bother too much. I'm not going to be too bothered.
Honestly, it's Deft UK. With the amount of stuff that they had in Lord of the Rings, it would not have worked as one film. That would have been such a rushed film. Because, like, you think about all the stuff that happens in the Lord of the Rings films, like, in each one, I mean, there is a massive amount of stuff. No, I think they did right with the first Lord of the Rings. definitely. And somebody, I think it was Papa Smurf, asked earlier if I was Daryl's girlfriend. No, we are married. I am his wife. Pwn it. Although I'm not wearing my rings right now. I'm a bad girl. It's because I do pole, so I have to take my rings off. I can't go on the pole with my rings. I'm sorry, Daryl's.
There was a comment above that I wanted to respond to, but I can't remember what it was. What was it? Oh, Hitman. I feel like the Hitman franchise, like what they did with Hitman, is not the same as what they're looking to do with Final Fantasy VII. I just don't think it is. I think with Hitman, it was like they had a new episode coming out every month. It was a new mission, whatever. They were doing an experiment, and this is not what they're going to do with the Final Fantasy VII remake. It can't be. I mean, I'm sitting here saying it's not going to be. I don't know, but I just don't think it would be.
But yeah, no, solid Chozo. Like, I can just even think about, like, the Two Towers. Like, if that had all been in the first film, it would have been so complicated. I mean, like, they had such good levels each film, and they ended at such
good pacing.
Yeah, it had such good pacing because they were based off of each separate book. But, like, the fact that the second film focused completely on Smeagol and Gollum and the other things that were going on. Primarily, I was focused on Frodo, Sam, and Smeagol. And then the last film was just the ending. Granted, it had like 15 endings, which you probably didn't need, and it didn't really need the bed scene. But it was still good and entertaining, and I happily went and watched them multiple times in the theaters. But yeah, I think Daryl's right. I think, like, if they make those parts have a good solid beginning, middle, end, it would be great. And it could end on, like, it has to end on a cliffhanger, or it can end on a cliffhanger.
Yeah.
But, like, it just has to be solid. A solid.
And the easiest cliffhanger for the first part is, for me, is leaving Midgar.
Yeah, I think so.
And that, to me, it always just reminds me of the first Lord of the Rings movie, when it's kind of like it seems to pans out like they've got this journey ahead of them, like they've only just done this small part.
Yeah, like when they get in the boat. I'm not leaving you, Mr. Frodo. Don't go where I can't follow.
That was great, Lawrence.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I provide. Yeah, I've only seen glimmers of the animated Lord of the Rings thing. Although I thought it was only The Hobbit. Is it all three of them?
Yeah, no, there was an animated movie for the Lord of the Rings.
The one for The Hobbit
It was in the 70s, I think. I mean, they're gonna change a lot of the game, Sebastian.
Yeah.
Like they have to.
They have to. It's just not. It's not possible to leave it just as is.
They already made the motorbike mini game again. CyberConnect 2 did it.
Yeah,
The
who they
iPhone
just
game.
dropped.
Yeah.
They just got rid of them.
Jamie Villeneuve. I didn't see how much about the Type F. If you got a link to that article, I'd be really interested to read it.
What was that?
He was saying, like, they spoke about how much money it cost them to make the flying regalia. Like, they cost them more money per, like, meter high it went or something.
Really?
I guess because of the depth of field and all that stuff. I don't know. But yeah, he was just relating it to the high wind.
Yeah. Yeah, Eristed would have been an interesting one, although I don't know if that leaves too much for part 3. Because, like, there's a lot of stuff that happens after Eris dies.
Well, it's at the end of disc 1, isn't it?
Yeah, so, like, you know, there's a lot of stuff that goes on, although arguably disc 3 is essentially just, like, the final battle, so it's not really that much, but, like, at the same time, like, you know what? It could play a bit like how going back to Lord of the Rings, how Gandalf dies sort of near the sort of like right before the ending, but like not too far from the ending. So you still have a lot more stuff to go. So
Yeah, because
like it could
if
end
you
like
think
that.
about in context of that, Rufus would be the end boss of the first part.
Yeah.
And then you have the crazy motorcycle and then all that stuff, and then you leave, and then that's it. But
And then like maybe what would be the ending of Disc 2? It's trying to remember Final Fantasy VII's timeline.
there's a lot. I mean, Eris could work as at the end of part 2. You've obviously got the Costa del Sol stuff, like the the Gold Saucer,
Yeah.
Nibelheim
Yeah.
happens. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I would have to replay it again.
That would be hilarious via if they did put that in DLC as for the City NT. And hey, I don't know how you'd say your name. Sorry.
But yeah, no, I think that would be very great if they could make some Cloud.
I don't know when
Oh,
this
just
became
that.
a Lord of the Rings podcast.
Oh,
Maybe we should start one.
Actually, yeah, that's a good ending, Sebastian. Cloud's mental breakdown. End it with Cloud's mental breakdown, and then go after he's had his mental breakdown, and that's when you go off as
And
the other
Medeal?
people. Yeah. And
What
then
is-
you start off the next bit while with the other main characters who are still around to explore and stuff. And then it carries on with like Tifa unwinding Cloud's dreams or Cloud's thoughts and stuff.
You gotta try and get back into.
Yeah, and then the final battle and stuff. Yeah, I think that would be a good one.
How many hours do I think each game? I don't know. I think as long as each game has between 20 and 30 hours core gameplay, I think people will be satisfied with that. It's to me, it's how many. Because obviously, if you're thinking about like the main Final Fantasy games, they have a lot of end game content. Like, and until you get to that, there's not too much you can distract yourself with. Like you can obviously grind, but if you think about Final Fantasy VII, you don't really get the opportunity to do most of the other stuff, like the side missions,
the golden
and that stuff,
chocobo.
until you get the airship at least.
Yeah.
So
And oh my god.
and I don't know how they're going to do with the parts, like how they're going to make it so there's lots of additional stuff that you can do.
Yeah. Unless it's just all unavailable until the very end of the game, but they would have to provide some kind of stuff.
But yeah,
The reason Mario, I mean like the official reason why they broke or why they got rid of them was because of, I guess, artistic differences. Is kind of like they just basically didn't think that the quality was of their standards, essentially, so they dropped them.
yeah.
I
don't know why it took them 2 years to make that decision.
I know. But no, that was a Shinji Hashimoto did a statement on it, just saying like, they just weren't meeting the quality levels that we wanted for the Final Fantasy VII Remake. But yeah, like, I mean, the fact that they announced all that and then like they've already released like a trailer, like a little gameplay trailer of it, and then they were just like, oh, by the way, no, we're not going with them anymore. It's just like, where do we stand? Like, I even feel uncomfortable using.
See you later, Nobishin.
Bye, Shinobishin. I even feel uncomfortable using the screenshots in our videos because I'm just like, well, is this actually what the game's gonna look like?
That's true.
Like, I'm just really like,
they have just re-showed it off at their Distant Worlds thing.
So is it gonna be different? Like, everybody's freaking out about it, but I'm just like, but what's changed now that Cyber Connect 2 is gone?
Well, all you've got to do is look at Final Fantasy 15 and how much Luna changed from her announcement through to release. Like, they changed the design quite considerably.
Yeah, and they do quite frequently with that. And Noah, yes, we covered that earlier, but yes, Daryl and I are married.
Yes. There was another question earlier up. What was it going to be? I think who asked whether or not fans would actually want a sequel. Someone asked whether fans would actually want a sequel, and I feel like yes. I mean, there's so much just sheer hype around the Final Fantasy VII Remake. I think
it was Andia. Hi, Andia.
I think it's obviously going to depend on how well received the remakes are, the remake parts. Like, if no one's liking them, then they're not going to do a sequel by the end of it.
Yeah, like, I mean, I think that, yeah, if the parts go well, I feel like there will always be a sort of demographic that would be wanting more.
I mean, like, Kelsey, there are so many different aspects that they can cover. And that's the thing that I'm most curious about, because you've even got like the scenes between Yamsky and Holtov. Like they were quite minor characters. Like, are they going to do more between the stuff with Professor Gast and Ilfana? Like they could do a lot more with those kind of scenes as well. Like,
yeah.
There is so much that they can do to expand the story and the narrative. Like Seto's origins is a perfect one.
Yeah.
Like, we could learn more about the G tribe. Like, there are so many different aspects that they could expand.
That scene is gonna be so sad.
Hopefully they do it well.
With Seto. I know. That's the thing that I'm really nervous about, though, because, like, I mean, I don't think that the remasters have generally been that great when it came to sound. Like, I don't feel like Final Fantasy X's remaster really did well with the music, and I don't feel like 12 was really that much better. Like, I'm really worried about the music and the emotional impact that they will have.
Noah, I haven't played too many Kingdom Hearts games, but I like the first one.
I like the first one. I think my favorite is the first one. I think it was just a solid. It was just a solid game. Like, I mean, I didn't like when Kingdom Hearts got into Crazy Land, Crazy Town with like, let's have a ton of nobodies and somebodies and blah blah blah. I'm just like, okay, I'm done. I'm done with X person and all this stuff. But the first one was great. But yeah, no, I agree, Lewis. I think
Steven.
Dine would be amazing to have more story. And bye, Steven.
Kelsey, I'm kind of torn. I feel like if they're gonna do it, then they need to do it. I feel like if they kind of half-ass it, then it's going to cause them more problems.
Oh yeah, somebody did ask about whether or not it's going to be turn-based earlier. I think, like, whether or not it's going to be action RPG, and like,
I think he's pretty much said this. There's going to be no turn-based, right?
I don't know, but I think that, like, if you really think about Square Enix as a company with regards to Final Fantasy, like, the main directors of the Final Fantasy games at the moment, Tabata and Nomura, like, in the present moment, we have no clue what Toriyama and sort of Ito are with the main series. We know that Toriyama's obviously working on Mobius, but Ito, we have no clue what he's working on. But even from his perspective, I mean, like, with Final Fantasy 12, it's a completely different gameplay system. It's more of an MMO system, but I think action RPG is the way forward, just because I don't think there's any directors really left at Square Enix who, for the Final Fantasy main series, who are well known, who do turn-based battle systems, like maybe Chiba with like World of Final Fantasy.
Yeah, Toriyama's
but I don't see turn-based coming back to Final Fantasy.
I mean,
main
we don't.
series.
For example, I don't know how much involvement Toriyama had with Mobius, but out of the mobile games that we've played, that was the one with the combat we enjoyed the most. And I love the combat in Final Fantasy 13.
Yeah, no, I do too, but I just think they've gone too far into the action RPG now to go back, especially with 15.
Do I think the next main Final Fantasy will become episodic? I don't know. I feel the only reason they're doing Final Fantasy
Yes,
7...
Dark Lord, I was referring to specifically the Final Fantasy main series. I tried to make that clear. but I might not.
I feel as though they're doing it with the Final Fantasy VII Remake because they have to, from a creative perspective. But I feel like with another game, it will. Again, I'll go back to the Mass Effect example. If they feel like the world they want to create is worthwhile, like worthy of creating multiple games, and there's a sequel involved, then I think they'll totally do that now. So, I guess to answer your question, yes. I think it just depends. Like I feel with Final Fantasy 15, they're just done with it. Like Tabata is just done. Like there may be a sequel at some point in the future, but I think they're just really done with it. But if you think about Final Fantasy 13, Toriyama and Katase loved it. They loved the world. They loved the universe. They were given the opportunity to make more. They wanted to go for it. So it's really going to depend on too many other things. And yes, Angel Fuentes, Shinji Hashimoto has said that once Nomura and Katase are free, then they will look to make 10 Part 3. But that looks like it's going to be a while.
Yeah, that is the thing. Like, I mean, Square Enix have kind of given fans the turn-based systems with Tokyo Games Factory. Like, I mean, you know, if you want that traditional format, Square Enix do still supply it essentially to fans. But yeah, like, I mean, they just really like the sort of action craziness that's sort of like Kingdom Hearts-esque almost. It's like Nomura's direction. Nomura's almost become the new visionary for Square Enix, hasn't he? Because, I mean, most of the decisions feel like they are based off of something that he's done.
Or he's envisioned, like games like Dissidia, World of Final Fantasy, Theatrhythm, like they're all basically his brainchild.
Because, like, I mean, the action stuff is mainly his sort of forte, because he likes the flips, he likes the glitz and glamour, and the let's make it look all pretty, and woo, look at that flew that way, and this flew that way.
I mean, Luis Kuna, they did just release a new Final Fantasy game that was turn-based. Like, World of Final Fantasy came out a year ago.
Yeah.
Just released, but but it didn't sell that well. You know, World of Final Fantasy sold okay, but it didn't set the world on fire. Now, I know that the kind of release thing that happened with it coming out before Final Fantasy 15, I don't know if that hindered sales or not. It obviously, from a promotional perspective, once it came out, they pretty much ditched it because they had to focus on Final Fantasy 15. I don't know if they would have been the case the other way around, but there's been almost like... They obviously did the Sora character introduction to promote Kingdom Hearts. They did the Balthier character introduction to promote the Zodiac Age. But other than those two things, they basically just ditched the game. Like, it was like it never existed.
I know, which is really sad.
And it's kind of the same thing we've seen with the other, like, Final Fantasy Explorers is pretty much the same. Like, they pushed it a little bit, and then once it came out, it's like if it doesn't have that initial hook, they're just like, all right, you're done, you're over, to the next thing.
Bye. But yeah, thoughts on a Final Fantasy VIII remake or sequel? I honestly, like, I don't know. I mean, I would love to see it, but I don't see it happening anytime soon, if I'm honest.
I feel like...
Hi, Shanto. No.
I feel like sequels for the older games just won't work. Like, but because it's been so long, I just feel like it just... Like, Final Fantasy IV, they did the after years, and the only real reason they were able to do that is because they did the Final Fantasy IV remake. And so the after years was done in a similar style. If they suddenly did Final Fantasy VI sequel or a Final Fantasy VIII sequel, it's just going to be such a departure from what everyone knows. It's going to be too difficult, I think, for people to do it. Like, the conversation we're talking about now with the Final Fantasy VII sequel, potentially, coming after the remake, that would make sense because it's a continuation of what people are already familiar with.
Yeah.
So I think they would only be able to do a sequel to 8 or 6 if they did a remake of those games, which, from what Katase's saying, it sounds like they really want to do.
Yeah.
But it just depends how long they're going to spend on the Final Fantasy VII remake. Noah, I'm pretty sure in World of Final Fantasy you could turn encounters off if you wanted to. Or am I just imagining that? I don't know.
I don't know about a sequel for 6. I think like 6 was pretty solid. It was pretty solid start, finish, experience. Everybody kind of had their arc. Tifa. Terra, I'm getting tired now. Terra is off to have her little children. Not have them, but just take care of her little children. Locke is gone back.
Doing his thing.
Yeah, doing his thing.
Hopefully
hooking up with Celeste.
Just as a quick reminder, everyone who's watching the video, please like the video at the moment.
And subscribe to our channel.
And see you later, Noah. It's good to have you here.
Bye, Noah.
And hopefully Japan's well.
Oh, yeah. I'm jealous.
You're jelly.
I'm jelly. I have all this gel.
Now, Lauren, I believe you were thinking about announcing the winners of the Patreon giveaway in this stream, but we didn't remotely prepare for that.
No, we didn't.
So I think what we're going to do is we will announce the winners in next week's stream.
Yeah. So you guys will hear it first.
But so yeah, if you aren't aware, we are doing a big competition at the moment for our Patreon supporters.
I will post a link to the video.
Post a link.
I'll do it. Just keep on going.
Yeah, so we're giving away a Balthier Playarts Kai from Final Fantasy XII Zodiac Age, and we're also giving a Moogle plushie. Lauren's going to put the link in the description.
I was going to get the Moogle
All
plushie.
you've got to do is just support us on Patreon, and you'll automatically be entered into the draw. And yeah, I mean, you've got pretty good odds of winning something that's pretty awesome.
Yes. That is the video, and then that is the Patreon. So yes, no, we will do that next time. Yeah, sorry, my mind completely disconnected, and we completely didn't prepare for that. But it's okay. At least you have another week to get your entries in if you want to win either a Moogle plushie or a Balthier Playarts Kai.
And I'm also pretty much finished with the video that has been taking a seriously long time to make.
It has been, and it's actually from a Patreon supporter as well.
Is.
Sheena, one of our beloved Patreon supporters, asked for this ages ago, and we've just been working to the bone to get it done.
I really hope you guys enjoy it, because it's been really, it's a really like super interesting topic. It's just been really hard for me to think about how to actually tackle it.
Yeah,
I've tried to get a lot of data and I'm going to be analyzing that. So if you enjoy my kind of statistical videos, then you should hopefully enjoy this one. But yeah, it's just I've been working on it for like 3 to 4 weeks now, so it's going to be good to finally get it out, and then we can go back to doing some of the other stuff that we've got planned. But yeah, like it's been a mission, this video. It's been fun, but
you've not seen daylight in a while.
I've just been working underneath the table.
Yeah, that's it. Like the ganja.
I would love it if they did a Final Fantasy Dynasty Warriors crossover game.
Oh, you just, who was that?
They did Dragon Quest Warriors, yeah. Well, Dragon Quest Heroes.
Yeah, Veerpal, you just spoke to Daryl's heart. He is such a Warriors fan.
Everyone's a Warriors fan deep down. Deep down. Although I have to say that I'm a little bit apprehensive about Dynasty Warriors 9.
Oh no! Is it because of the last the other Warriors game that you were playing?
No, I've been watching gameplay trailers and I just don't.
You think they lost it? They lost your vote.
I know, like I know this is nothing to do with Final Fantasy, but has anyone else watched the Dynasty Warriors 9 gameplay? I need to talk to someone about it because it just looks weird. It doesn't look as polished as like the Samurai Warriors games have got like a nailed down. I'm really happy with it. But it just looks a bit strange. I don't know. It's one of those ones where I feel like I'm going to have to play it to see if it's actually as bad as it looks. But I don't know. I'm a bit apprehensive at the moment about it.
Poor Daryl's. It's okay. We'll get through this.
Well, maybe we will. If it's
and
bad,
if we don't,
then we won't.
And if we don't, we have like a ton of other Dynasty Warriors games for you to play in our collection.
It's true.
That are still unfinished, including Neo, which you still have to finish.
That's not a Dynasty Warriors game.
Well, it's
not even made by the same developers.
Is it not?
No, it's made by the same publisher.
Well, that's it. At least it's made by the same publisher. We're so silly.
Yeah. Is there anything else anyone wants us to tackle specifically in the final 10 minutes of our stream?
Well, if you guys want to, though, I'm continuing my Final Fantasy X 10-2 HD remaster stream on
10-2 now.
Tomorrow. Well, people always ask me what I'm playing, and I can't help but say 10-2. Final Fantasy X 10-2 HD remaster stream. I have to be specific, otherwise people get upset.
Okay.
I have to be very specific.
Does that mean that you're going to be playing?
I'm going to be playing it hopefully tomorrow at 3 p.m. BST, my normal time. And yeah, it all depends on if my child will sleep.
That is, it does depend on that very much so.
Anyone, we need sleep.
What's everyone playing at the moment? That's what I'm curious about, because there hasn't
really been a lot to play.
To my knowledge, Cuphead's just come out.
Destiny and Cuphead's just come out. Yeah,
Cuphead's just come out.
Cuphead has been a huge one that people have been playing. I really want to play it. Like, Cuphead just looks like my type of game. It just looks like a lot of fun.
I've never played Shadow Hearts, actually. I remember seeing... Is that made by Konami? Or is it Nam... I feel like it's Konami or Namco. But I don't know. There's tons of like smaller JRPG franchises that I feel like would benefit from some kind of revival is more of an indie title. I just feel like there's kind of a niche for that, and I feel like Square Enix is showing that with releases like I Am Setsuna and Lost Sphere and Project Octopath.
Oh, Shadow of War. That's
I hear that's pretty good.
Don't get any ideas. No, I'm kidding. Hey, we just got you Destiny, and it was...
That was like a month ago now.
You ask for so much.
I really need to play Metal Gear Solid 5 as well. I've had it for a while.
And that's
I need to finish Neo, though. I
know. We just have too much time, too much
This
stuff,
is the problem, right?
So
I was playing Neo. I was on a really good groove with it. And then Final Fantasy 12 The Zodiac Age came out.
Yeah.
So,
and they were just like, great. And then now Destiny 2. And
Destiny 2 has the unfortunate, but fortunate from their perspective, pull of being like a persistent game. So there's new stuff to do roughly all the time. And I don't know, I didn't play it much last week, and I feel like I missed out on a load of stuff, even though in reality I didn't. I just feel like I did.
You're a kid, Eros.
I missed Zer's weapons.
They sucked you in. They did. The Evil Within definitely looks interesting. That will not be a game that I will touch anytime soon.
That would be the perfect game for you to play on your
No,
stream.
it would not.
It would be amazing.
No, it would not. It would be me crying and wondering where my mommy is.
Where did I get to on Neo? I feel like according to the boss log, I was about 25 to 30% through the game.
Yeah. I know I got to a point where some guy attacked me and his dog attacked me even more, and I felt very sad. And that was it.
Very, very descriptive.
Yeah. I was just so sad. But yeah, no, I want to finish Neo. Playing through Final Fantasy X again has kind of scratched the itch a bit. I love playing through Final Fantasy X.
Kelsey, I would have probably agreed with that sentiment a couple of years ago, but considering the mobile games are kind of going from strength to strength right now, I feel as though there's not too much riding on the remake aside from their reputation. Because the mobile games are raking it in.
Yeah, like And also, I mean, consider the fact that Final Fantasy 15 sold really well. Like, that it sold really well, like, in comparison to the other games in the series so far. Like,
Well, it sold more than 9 and 12.
like, yeah. Oh, yeah. But, no, like, I mean, by their standards, Final Fantasy 15 was a success. Really, I mean, despite like what other people
Well,
may
they
have
were
been
expecting
saying,
Final Fantasy Final Fantasy 15 to struggle to sell 5 million.
Yeah,
and now it's just past 6.5 million.
So, like, Final Fantasy is definitely not on its last legs at all.
Well, we don't know.
Yeah, well, I hope not.
We don't know when the next game's going to release. Because after Dissidia NT comes out, there are no Final Fantasy games on the horizon. None.
But we do have Kingdom Hearts.
No, I tell a lie. There's Final Fantasy Explorers Force.
Yay! So excited.
The mobile game we probably won't receive.
Yeah. Oh, they're not Funko Pops. They are actually Square Enix mini static arts. Yeah, they're Square Enix static arts. And yeah, they're adorable. I love them. I think, did you get me both of them? Or did I buy one?
I don't know.
You might have bought me one of them. Can't remember.
Yeah, I don't know.
Hey, Ryan.
Hey, can I just say, Ryan, that we have a slight gripe with Square Enix for that because they stole our name.
Yeah. Oh my god, the fact that they could have chose anything and they chose Kingdom Hearts Union. Like, are you freaking kidding me, Square Enix? Are you freaking kidding me? You can't think of anything else?
Not cool.
Like, you can't think of anything else?
It wouldn't surprise me if they release a new game next year called Final Fantasy Union based on that.
I know. They're just trying to spite us now. We won't be taken down.
Or will we?
I'll give them the stink eye. Or we could just walk into Square Enix HQ and just be like, "Hey, we're the owners of Final Fantasy Union. Want to make a deal?" No.
I don't know what's happened with the Chrono franchise. To be honest, I feel as though it's. Does anyone know what game Hideo Baba is working on?
Don't know.
Because they clearly brought him over from Tales to work on something. It could be the next Chrono game, but I feel like if they are going to do a new Chrono game, then it's going to be something. It's going to be from one of the kind of more indie studios.
I realize I'm overpowering the chat now.
I feel very uncomfortable right now.
You're sitting next to a Moogle. It's so comfy though. I feel so snuggly. It's really late. It's getting to my bedtime.
It is. Oh dear.
What?
Yeah, you're not allowed to say that. You have to speak in Moogle.
Kupo?
Yeah. There you go.
What are you laughing at, Kupo? Are you laughing at my aesthetic, Kupo?
Maybe.
Are you against my aesthetic, Kupo?
I'm not against it. It was unexpected.
Kupo. It's not a onesie. It's a blanket, and it's from the Square Enix store.
And according to the label, it's not suitable for anyone under the age of 13.
Yeah.
Where's the label on it?
I don't know. Don't strip me.
But yeah, apparently children aren't allowed to use this blanket. It could kill them.
Well, look, like it comes like it suffocates Allie. Like it just there's nothing. Like you just can't see.
Ooh, yeah.
But yeah, no, it's a blanket from Square Enix. I'm cold, Kelsey. I'm cold. Anytime that you're cold, it's an opportune moment. It's been on my legs the entire time.
You just decided to transition it to a more suitable location.
Yes,
apparently.
on my head.
On that note, now that you've
witnessed, now that we got completely comfortable,
I think we need to head off.
Yes, I do think so too.
So yeah, if everyone wouldn't mind liking the video, and also, as I said, we're doing a giveaway at the moment for Patreon supporters. Lauren's going to put a link in the chat to the Patreon. If you want to go over there, head over there, support us on Patreon. It only has to be for one video if that's all you can afford, or if that's all you want to do. Then that's fine. You can get entered in the video straight away. All you've got to do is become a Patreon supporter, and you will get entered into the giveaway to win a Belfair Play Arts Kai and a Moogle plushie. Not both. Or yes, not both of them. It's one person will win one person will win the other.
Oh, okay.
Well, I mean, yes, you could be drawn twice.
There is a chance.
You'd like to think that statistically or from a probability perspective that would not happen. Mm-hmm. Maybe we should just say that can't happen.
Okay. Yeah, we'll say that can't happen because it would be unfair.
Yes. And
it also would cost a lot in postage.
Yes.
A lot more.
Daryl is not going to dress as a chocobo. Lauren could dress as a Chocomoogle.
Chocomoogle.
But yeah, we'll see you guys next week where we're going to be announcing the giveaway winners.
Yes.
And we'll be talking about something else.
Yes.
Hopefully. Bye, everyone.
Bye.